Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Norma Obonna. I'm a legal practitioner based and practicing in Lagos State, Nigeria. And on this channel, we talk about everything that pertains to corporate governance, compliance, and company law in Nigeria. So today, we're going to be talking about the Business Facilitation Miscellaneous Provisions Act 2022, which I'll be calling the Business Facilitation Act. This act was signed into law on February 8th, 2023, and that also is a commencement date. Basically, the objective of this act is to facilitate the ease of doing business in Nigeria. This act amends 21 legislations in Nigeria that touches on various aspects of business operations in Nigeria. So what I would be doing in this video would be to highlight those amendments that has been made by this new act that principally and primarily touches on corporate governance in Nigeria. But before we delve into that, at this point I would implore you to please engage this video, like this video, comment on it, share, subscribe, turn on notification. Let me know in the comment section if there is anything or any relevant subject that you would want me to speak about in subsequent videos. Just share our content to your loved ones, your families, your friends, so everybody you know that what we share on this channel is relevant to. And I would be very grateful and very happy if you would do that to help us promote the growth of this channel. Thank you very much. So I'll go straight into what we have for today. So as I said, I will just speak to those provisions that deals primarily on corporate governance. The first amendment that would talk about, okay, so I would just say that the amendments that are relevant for this discussion are the amendments that are made in KAMA as they pertain to corporate governance. As they primarily pertain to corporate governance. So those are the provisions that we're going to be discussing today. So going on, the first aspect I would want to touch on that the Business Facilitation Act dealt with is the provisions as it pertains to meetings of companies. So section 240 of KAMA 2020 has provided that the general meetings of companies must be held in Nigeria, with the exception of small companies or companies that have just a single shareholder. Well, as I have discussed in my earlier videos, I'd also mentioned that the private companies are allowed by KAMA 2020 to hold their meetings virtually or electronically. What the Business Facilitation Act has now done is to remove the word private and provide that companies can hold their meetings electronically, their general meetings electronically. So be it a private or public company, the implication of this amendment made by the Business Facilitation Act is that you are free to hold your general meetings electronically and you won't be flouting any law. That is the first aspect. Then the second aspect is on electronic service of notice of meetings. Service of notice of meetings is provided for in section 244 of KAMA 2020, which basically states that notice of meetings can be served in two ways, either personally or by post. But what the Business Facilitation Act has done, the Business Facilitation Act has provided that notices of meetings can be served in by electronic means. So before now, under the KAMA 2020, the KAMA 2020 recognizes electronic service of notice of meetings, but not as a standalone, not as an independent option. So under KAMA 2020, before you can do electronic service of notice of meeting, it must have been that you had served the notice either personally or by post. Then you can augment with electronic service. But the Business Facilitation Act has now said that you can serve by electronic means, and that is enough service, sufficient service. So another aspect also that was introduced or amended by this new act is on votings at general meetings. By section 248 of KAMA, you can voting at general meetings could only be done by show of hand, except where persons that are qualified call for voting by poll. I would not discuss voting on poll in this video, because I have another video where I will discuss that in details. But just suffice it to say that voting at general meetings under KAMA is by show of hands or by polls, where a poll is called or a poll is demanded or requested. But the Business Facilitation Act has now provided also that votings at general meetings of companies can be done in an electronic means. So electronic voting is sanctioned, is approved, or is allowed by virtue of this amendment made by the Business Facilitation Act. Also, another relevant aspect is on the number of independent directors. KAMA 2020 provides that public companies must have at least 3 independent non-executive directors on their board. But what the Business Facilitation Act has said now is that the composition of the board of a public company should be in such a way that board should be in such a way that 1/3 of the members of that board must be independent non-executive directors. 1/3 of the composition of that board should be made up of independent non-executive directors. So the number 3 is no longer that relevant. It could be relevant if the board is a board of 9 directors. So of course 3 directors is 1/3 of 9 directors. But apart from that, it is now the 1/3 principle or ratio that applies. And also the final point which I will touch on in this video is on disqualification of a person from being a director. By section 283 of KAMA, section 283 of KAMA makes provision for persons that are disqualified, or disqualification or grounds upon which a person would be disqualified from being the director of a company. One of the grounds is the ground on removal. That's section 288 of KAMA. That's the ground on removal. So basically, once a person has been removed before as the director of a company, the person is automatically disqualified from being appointed as a director on a later date. But what the Business Facilitation Act has done now is to say that if that removal must border on unethical conduct, dishonesty, or fraud. Where the removal does not border on dishonesty, fraud, or unethical conduct, then such removal does not disqualify such a person from being appointed as a board member or as a director on the board of a company. Also, another okay, the one I mentioned, if I said it was the last, but no, now I'm coming to the last one. The last one is on multiple directorships. So the KAMA 2020 provides that a person can be in a maximum of a person can be a director on the board of the maximum of 5 public companies. So a person cannot be on the board of more than 5 public companies. Now, where the change is on the timeline for compliance. The KAMA 2020 says that the timeline for compliance is the AG. So 2 years after the enactment of the Act, the first AGM after 2 years from the date of enactment of the Act. So for context, the KAMA 2020 was enacted in July 2020. So 2 years from July 2020 would be July 2022. So from July 2022, any person that is having more directorships than being a director on 5 public companies must resign from the board from July 2022 to the next AGM of the company. But what the Business Facilitation Act has done now is to say that a person that is holding these multiple directorships, maybe 6, 7, being on 6, 7, 8 boards of 8, for instance, 8 public companies, that such a person must resign from his directorship of the extra boards from the date of the enactment of the Business Facilitation Act to the first AGM. So the act was enacted in February 2023. So from February 2023, say the next AGM is August 2023. So within that space of time, such a person must resign from the board of those extra companies. So just 5, any other extra directorships that such a person hold, the person must relinquish, the person must resign from those extra directorships. I hope that the explanation makes sense, or puts it in the context that I'm trying to, or brings it across in the manner that I want it to come across. So basically that's what those are the basic provisions, or the primary provisions made by the Business Facilitation Act that touch on corporate governance. Thank you very much for staying and sticking with us all the while to this point. As I said, please engage our content in every and any manner that you can to help us grow this channel. Thank you very much. Do have yourselves a lovely day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.